Good afternoon, thanks for joining us. This is Spectrum Television News at noon. I am Uyai Imam. Now let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu urges governors to deliver results for Nigerians. Troops neutralize 16 Iswap terrorists to rescue 11 victims in Borno. In other news, 10 dead after shooter opens fire at high school in Canada. We'll bring you the details of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. Our first report this afternoon is that President Bola Tinubu has challenged governors and key federal institutions to shift from resolutions to real-life outcomes, insisting that National Economic Council conference must not end as another high-level conversation with no measurable impact on citizens. The president, represented by Senate President Godswill Akpabio at the closing of the two-day conference in Abuja, said the renewed hope agenda would be judged by what Nigerians can see and feel: jobs created, business support, roads and schools infrastructure, healthcare, among others. He commended Vice President Kashim Shettima for what he described as steady leadership of the NEC and acknowledged governors, ministers, development partners and private sector stakeholders for their input, stressing that the next phase of national development depends on disciplined implementation across all tiers of government. The conference, held under the theme Delivering Inclusive Growth and Sustainable National Development, the Renewed Hope National Development Plan, produced policy recommendations spanning taxation, oil theft, security, social spending, investment, and constitutional reform. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has appointed engineer Adeshayo Olusegun Michael as the Managing Director CEO of the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA. This was disclosed in a statement by a presidential spokesperson, Bayo Nanuga. The president also appointed other board members, including Engineer Aliyu Abdulaziz, Executive Director Technical, Ikechi Clara Nwosu, Chairman Southeast, Zubair Idris, Member, Igba Elizabeth, Member North Central, Sani Shehu, Member Northeast, Ademi Adetunji, Member Southwest, Engineer Emmanuel Mbe, Member South-South, and Engineer Charles Asogwa, Southeast. In the meantime, President Tinubu has congratulated the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, on his election as chairperson of the Governing Council of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. Kyari was elected yesterday to lead the 49th Governing Council of the IFAD, which serves as the organization's supreme decision-making authority. In a statement issued by his special advisor, on information and strategy, Bayo Nanuga, the president described the minister and his emergence as a strong vote of confidence in his leadership and the reforms being pursued under his watch in Nigeria's agriculture and food security value chain. The president also expressed optimism that the minister would provide purposeful leadership for the global agricultural development body at a time when many countries are grappling with food insecurity. Now to the red chambers. The Senate has approved the electronic transmission of election results to the Independent National Electoral Commission's result viewing portal, while permitting manual collation to serve as a backup where technology fails. The decision followed a reconsideration of a disputed clause in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill during an emergency plenary. Under the reviewed section, presiding officers at polling units are to electronically transmit results to the IRF portal after voting and documentation are completed. The amendment, however, provides that where electronic transmission cannot be carried out due to communication or network challenges, the manual result sheet, Form EC8A, will become the primary basis for collation and declaration. Away from that, Rivers State political tension have eased as former governor and minister of the Federal Capital Territory Nyesom Wike and his successor, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, do away with their rivalry following a final mediation by President Bola Tinubu. Speaking shortly after inspecting infrastructure projects in Abuja, Wike said the intervention by the president would be the last time. Meanwhile, Governor Fubara, during the inspection of the over 50-kilometer Port Harcourt Ring Road project, appreciated the FCT minister for his contribution to the development of the state. He promised that the project would be completed and delivered by October. The development came after both leaders met with the president at the presidential villa in Abuja. On security matters, troops of the Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai have neutralized 16 Iswap terrorists and rescued 11 kidnapped victims in a series of coordinated counter-offensive across Borno State. This is contained in a statement by the Media Information Officer of Operation Hadinkai, Lieutenant Colonel Sani Uba, today. He said the troops, in synergy with the Civilian Joint Task Force, launched a follow-up offensive on February 9th along the Komala axis in Kodunga Leku government area. According to him, troops pursued the fleeing terrorists up to the Gidan Kaji axis, neutralizing 16 of them, while several others escaped with gunshot wounds. Uba further revealed that troops, responding to a distress call along the Chibok-Damboa axis, rescued 9 kidnapped victims on the same day. Still on security, the Nigerian and U.S. officials said today that the United States will deploy 200 troops to Nigeria to train its armed forces in their fight against jihadist groups as Washington increases military cooperation with the West African country. Major General Samaila Uba, a spokesman for Nigeria's defense headquarters, told newsmen that they are getting United States troops to assist in training and technical support. Further adding that the additional troops expected to arrive in the coming weeks will provide training and technical guidance, including helping their Nigerian counterparts coordinate operations that involve airstrikes and ground troops simultaneously. Meanwhile, Nigeria has been under diplomatic pressure from the United States over insecurity in the country, which U.S. President Donald Trump has characterized as persecution and genocide against Christians. However, Abuja rejects allegations of Christian persecution in Nigeria, a framing long used by the U.S. religious right. Now to Africa, where Zimbabwe's cabinet has approved changes to the constitution as part of a bid to extend 83-year-old President Emerson Mnangagwa's term till 2030. Reports say Mnangagwa came to power in 2017 in a military-backed coup that ousted Robert Mugabe, who was president for 30 years. A cabinet statement said the approved amendments include extending the presidential term from 5 to 7 years and having parliament choose the president instead of the electorate. Justice Minister Zimyabi said the bill would undergo legal scrubbing by the Attorney General before being published and introduced to Parliament. On the foreign scene, Canadian police say that 10 people, including the shooter, are dead after an assailant opened fire at a high school in Western Canada today in one of the country's deadliest mass casualty events in recent history. The shooter was described as female. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police also said that 6 people were found dead inside a high school in the town of Tumbler Ridge in British Columbia. 2 more people were found dead at a residence believed to be connected to the incident, and another person died on the way to hospital. At least 2 other people were hospitalized with serious or life-threatening injuries, and as many as 25 people were being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Meanwhile, a suspected shooter was also found dead from what appears to be a self-inflicted injury, adding that they did not believe there were any more suspects or ongoing threats to the public. Still on the foreign scene, Indonesia says it is preparing up to 8,000 soldiers for deployment to Gaza, the first country to do so as part of Phase 2 of the ceasefire agreement brokered by the United States late last year. The Army Chief of Staff General Maoli Shimsuntak said training for the soldiers had already begun and that they would focus on medical and engineering roles in Gaza. Recall that Indonesia joined President Donald Trump's Board of Peace, which was announced last month. According to reports, the country has a mandate from the United Nations Security Council to establish an international stabilization force, which will help secure border areas in Gaza and ensure the territory's demilitarization, including the disarmament of Hamas. Still to come in the news. Chelsea surrendered 2-goal lead as Leeds secured draw in Premier League. Stay tuned for details of this and more in a moment. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. And now to the rest of the news stories. On our business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has approved the participation of licensed Bureau de Change (BDC) operators in the Nigerian foreign exchange market as part of efforts to improve foreign exchange liquidity in the retail segment of the market and meet the legitimate needs of end users. The Apex Bank also approved that weekly foreign exchange purchases by each BDC are capped at $150,000 and that utilization comply with existing BDC operational guidelines. Under the new directive contained in a circular signed by the Director, Trade and Exchange Department, Musa Nakoji, All BDCs duly licensed by the CBN are permitted to access foreign exchange through any authorized dealer bank of their choice at the prevailing market rates. The move, according to the circular, aims to deepen market efficiency and ensure broader access to foreign exchange across the economy. Still in business, Dangote Refinery has reduced the price of premium motor spirit by 25 naira per litre. This means the ex-depot rate dropped from 799 naira to 774 naira per litre. The reduction was contained in a notice issued by the Group Commercial Operations Department, Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals to marketers. It said the move is with immediate effect. On our health news, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) has inaugurated the Rivers State Task Force on Counterfeit, Fake Drugs and Unwholesome Processed Foods as part of renewed efforts to curb the circulation of unsafe medicine and processed foods. The task force brings together representatives of NAFDAC, the Rivers State Ministry of Health, the Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria, the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and Nigerian Police Force. Speaking at the inauguration, the Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Deyeye, represented by the Director South Zone, Chukuma Oligbo, urged Rivers State to take the lead in confronting the growing threats of counterfeit medicine and unsafe packaged foods, which she said endangers lives, undermine health care outcomes, distort markets, and increase health costs and productivity losses. Oligbo said the task force will carry out coordinated market inspections, conduct rapid testing where necessary, and ensure transparent reporting to the chairman of the Federal Task Force, while providing citizens access to hotlines, community forums, and online channels to report suspicious products. Still in health, the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare and the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Women's Health have begun plans to coordinate interventions to address challenges affecting Nigerian women. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Women's Health, Dr. Adanna Stienka, disclosed this during a meeting with a coalition of women leaders, representatives of women groups and NGOs in Abuja. Reports say that the meeting was convened by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare and facilitated by OSAP WH. Now to the world of sports. Chelsea missed the chance to move into the top four in the Premier League after throwing away a 2-goal lead against Leeds United at Stamford Bridge. The host had a 2-goal cushion thanks to João Pedro and Cole Palmer, but the equalizer came via Calamushua's defending, with George Ashempong, Malo Gusto and Robert Sanches failing to clear a ball over the top, allowing Noah Okafor to poke home an equalizer. Chelsea had won all 4 of their Premier League matches under new manager Liam Ronstadt, but Manchester United's draw against West Ham United in the later kick-off means the Blues remain in 5th. Still in sports, the Milano Cortina 2026 opening ceremony has just handed Nigeria a moment for the history books. Mariam Boka Hassan, the celebrated poet, popularly known as Al-Halani Islam, became the first Nigerian Olympic flag bearer, standing alongside sporting titans like marathon legend Eliud Kipchoge and gymnastics star Rebecca Andrade. Mariam was in truly rarefied company. Meanwhile, the Winter Games are now underway, but the Nigerian digital space is still vibrating from the historic walk. Critics and cultural commentators alike have lauded the IOC for recognizing that global impact is not always measured in medals, but in the courage to speak truth to power. On entertainment news, Grammy-winning Nigerian singer Temilade Okpeniyi, popularly known as Tems, has become the first African female artist to have 7 entries on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 chart. The singer hit the milestone after her song What You Need debuted at 93 on this week's Billboard Hot 100 chart, bringing her total entries to 7. Thames now tie her compatriot Burna Boy and South African group Seether as the African artist with the most Billboard Hot 100 entries, with 7 each. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do us follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. This has been Spectrum Television News at 12 a.m. Uyai MM. Thanks for watching. Good afternoon.